Hi everyone. Today is a great day, and I'm very excited to be on an interview with Akwasi Peprah. I'll give him the opportunity to introduce himself. My name is Charles Abe, and this is a part of the series for GIAC, which is Global Impact Accelerator Corp. It's an opportunity to bring our story to you so that you know what we are doing, the impact we are creating, and how to be part of us if you want. Today we are here again with Akwasi Peprah. We are going to learn a little bit about him, what his motivations are. He's one of the founders of Global Impact Accelerator Corp. Welcome, Akwasi. Thank you for
Thank,
making some.
thank you, Charles, for having me. Very excited about today. So looking forward to it.
Awesome, awesome. For busy people like you, I know there's not a lot of time, so let's jump right into it. I'm so excited to get to know more about you and more about your vision for GIAC and even the motivation for setting it up. So let's start off with let's start with the beginning, right? All the way from the beginning. What inspired the creation of Global Impact Accelerator Corp?
So it kind of inspired from the fact that I had tried to start a lot of businesses, and every time I start, it would fail. And it just kept figuring out how do I keep starting businesses? I had a lot of motivation. Earlier in life, I had started a business that was successful. It worked out well. But I realized that I would go back, especially trying to go back to the continent, go to Ghana and say, hey, let me start this. And so I started with security cameras and we're trying to do this security camera. It was way ahead of its time. Later, it got saturated with the Chinese market. Then I remember getting even into trying to make plastic bags. We got into making cooking pots. At the peak of the business, the sales guy went to sell it in Burkina Faso and never came back. The business collapsed. So every place I tried, I was like, forget about it. And I got to a point I realized that why do I have to keep going and trying things on the continent? It was a challenge. So I said, you know what? I'm going to rather move here and try to figure out in the US how I can set up a company. And that journey took me to a company called Lebadev that I joined the founder Rajesh from day one. And we helped build that business. And we're able to scale that business. And we realized we raised a lot of money and we're able to sell that company. We're able to exit that company basically selling our ownership. And when I did that, I paused and realized that, hey, wait a minute. If we could do this, then that means there was a playbook. And I realized that there were so many people that were trying to start businesses that did not have the ability of what their journey had gone through. I had basically gone through how to learn how to raise money, how to manage teams, run engineering teams, run all these things. So how do we package it to help other people? And that was what led into the formation of GIAC. And I had started that myself and Eric were doing something. Martin was doing something by himself. And it was interesting that we basically met through one of our joint portfolio companies. And we decided at the time that, hey, if we join forces, we believe we can drive an impact. And that was the journey that got us to start GIAC. How do we help other entrepreneurs basically accelerate and see success?
Wow, wow, wow. There's a lot to pick up from that. One thing I can pick up is sometimes when you try something and it's not working, maybe just change your geographical location or something small you need to tweak and everything would. So thank you for that answer. Let's step back a little bit and learn a little bit about you yourself. Who is Akwasi Peprah? Like, what can you tell us about us? About you?
Oh, no, so no, good question. Obviously, from Ghana originally, went to school in Alabama State, computer. Well, I went through multiple majors. I came here to study economics. I switched to accounting because my dad was an accountant, and then I switched to management information system. Then I moved to computer information system. And at the time, somebody said that Y2K was coming and it's going to have a lot of job for computer science. So I signed up to be a computer science major without even understanding what computer science was. And that's why I graduated with computer science. I then took that journey to basically spend about 15 years with IBM and Cisco. And that journey took me through a lot of software development. We went into supply chain and also customer experience. And then about 13 years ago, as I mentioned, I saw a problem inside Cisco that we thought could be leveraged outside. And that's why we joined forces to basically drive Levadata, which was a supply chain software company that moved me to San Francisco. Bay Area, and it was very interesting in Silicon Valley, and learned a lot. We sat in a building with over 400 startups, and every Friday we would see the failed startups leaving, and on Monday the new ones would come, and that continued for a while. And that journey basically taught us a lot. Basically, we learned from a lot of mentors, and basically grew that business. And that was those foundations. I tell people that that was the most expensive university I went to, was staying in the Bay Area, overpriced, but I think the learnings we got out of that was phenomenal. And those are learnings that I'm able to give back and help partner with people to scale their businesses.
Okay. Thank you so much. Now, let's talk. Let's focus in on GIAC a little bit. GIAC has a very bold aim, and I shudder when I read or hear someone say that aim. GIAC is trying to raise $1 billion from about 100,000 diasporans. What can you tell us about that? How do you hope to achieve this, and what has been the traction so far?
Yes. So we started talking about this at the beginning when we did not even have a plan. But we believe that if we got 100,000 people from the diaspora, African diaspora, to basically contribute an average of $10,000, we will create $1 billion fund. It's not that hard to reach. And we started talking about it. We was just talking and telling people to think about it. Initially, people signed up for it. Fast forward, we've been able to basically get commitments and actually received money over $10 million since we even started that year. And that is just with a small set of people. As we go forward, we believe that that is just going to transform the continent, because if that $1 billion is pumped into that continent, it changed the landscape. And that's why we are very determined to do it. And later I'll mention about when I even got into the finance space, because I wasn't even in the finance space. But as I started leading Max Barlow and started even understanding finance more, I've even seen that that opportunity is very, very possible.
Okay. Okay. So you talk about the impact that $1 billion would do in Africa. What does impact truly mean to you?
Impact for me means basically, if I look at the continent of Africa, everybody sees it and sees a lot of the negatives. Less than 2% of the world money goes to Africa, yet it's the fastest growing place. If you think about it, if the population over there is growing, the exchange rate is very hard to keep up with the foreign currency. Corruption is engraved in governments and companies. So if you look at it, in some of the instabilities in some sections of it and the infrastructure, there's so many negatives on it. So what is done is that it's stalled, and a lot of times Ghana and Ivory Coast produce a lot of cocoa, but we shed it somewhere else for somebody to produce and buy it from them. And so
Yeah.
those are things that we have to basically change. And so for me, impact is basically looking at a place that by 2050, 1 of 4 people are going to be living in Africa. And you want a place when that day comes that has that development, that doesn't have people trying to go to the US, UK, or somewhere just to live or basically survive. And basically, for me, the impact is basically allowing that continent to thrive and be more self sustaining. And that's what impact means to me.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah, great response. Let's stay on impact a little bit more. You told us what impact means to you, but how are you measuring this impact, both economic and social terms? How do you sit back one day and look at what GIC has accomplished maybe in 5 years, 10 years, and be able to say, okay, this is how much impact we've brought into. Yes, maybe you get, no, maybe you get successful at raising $1 billion or more, right? I've known you for a little bit, and I know you're always over an achiever. So what if you're able to raise $1 billion or more? How would you measure this impact that you bring to Africa? What are you going to look at?
We're going to be looking at a couple of things. We're going to look at the number of jobs created and saved. That's a big factor, because these entrepreneurs are getting these monies to be able to create jobs or save jobs. And for me, that is a big piece of it. We also want to see how those companies are able to work together to grow their businesses and drive social responsibility in their communities. That's another thing that we look at from that measurement of impact. We're also going to see how many education forums are we able to reach out, financial literacies and programs like that, that will be able to do, so that you basically get. So education is key. and basically driving those jobs and creating jobs, and basically that those businesses grow to give back to their community. And for us, those are the ways that we're looking at measuring impact.
Awesome. Awesome. So yeah, GIAC is really unique, and I'll let you talk to us a little bit about the unique nature because we see a lot of people who some are even from Africa, some are outside Africa who are also driving sort of the same agenda, right? Africa is gonna be a big economy in the future, so everybody's sort of trying to go in there. How does GIAC distinguish itself from the people who are just going in there, maybe to exploit, and how unique is GIAC?
Yeah. So I think for GIC, the fundamental thing is a lot of times we've been able to run a lot of successful business and be able to generate revenue outside just loud years. And we have to get somebody because we spend a lot of time. So the model we came up with was we don't need to charge anybody anything up front. We don't have to get any monthly amount. But what we are saying is that let's partner together. And if we can drive you to be successful, we get a small piece of your profit share. That's basically our model. So what it does is that it doesn't make sense, okay, this person barely has money and they're trying to give you more money to help them. We'll put it in. If the business doesn't work out, that took a lot of my time and we basically are able to move on. But we try to work together to do it. So that is one of the fundamental things that we do, which we believe is very unique. I think because we've also been able to build the power of our network and also one of our partner companies, Max Barlow, we've been able to get access to capital, whether it's equity or debt, that we have it because businesses need that. And that is one thing that brings that unique. That experience of driving and building a company, in the case of Level Data, helped us, and with experience with my co-founders, we've been able to set up a pace that a lot of these movies we've seen before. Today, for instance, GIAC talks to at least 2 startups every single week. And so think about that for a second. It means for that period of time, how many startups are we talking to, the different dynamics? And we have about currently 37 companies in our portfolio. A year and a half, 2 years from now, we plan to have 1,000 in these companies. So for us, that ecosystem that we built, where companies are able to work within it, and we've built an ability for service providers like lawyers, accountants, software developers to provide it to it, a community of investors and thought leaders coming together. We believe that ecosystem is what creates that uniqueness for GIAC.
I love it. I love it. And you said it succinctly. Yeah, that ecosystem is something that is very solid. Could you elaborate a little bit more on what that ecosystem means? What does it include? What makes it so unique and so solid?
No, that's a very good question because when you think about the ecosystem, we believe that 80% of our portfolio companies are either going to be a producer, a marketplace, logistics, or delivery. So typically, those are so we have companies like, for instance, one of our companies, Escape. They make skincare, and so they're Cameroon based. They make skincare. They're able to sell it on the continent, and in Nigeria, for instance, they're able to solve bleaching. So people are able to bleach their skin and it starts tearing their skin. They have come up with a cream that's able to solve for that. But the good news, they just need to focus on the cream because in our same ecosystem, there's a marketplace, VIP Social, where they can sell their products on. Then able to leverage Swoove from a logistics standpoint, and then do delivery through Locker to get to an individual in Ghana. And so when you think about it, that's what we built as companies, and that makes it to the end client. But to make it work, you need infrastructure. And infrastructure, the challenge with infrastructure is that roads, electricity, those are things that our government, we can only control so much. So we know we have to manage around it. But everything falls back on money. And for us, the beauty about it is that with our partnership with Max Barlow Group, we're able to unlock a lot of capital to help these businesses. And so with that ecosystem, yes, we have that. And on top of the ecosystem is the ability for service providers to help these businesses as they need it. And so that's the ecosystem that we built on so that while you're in, we are basically building. And yes, we talk about it building a super company because you have, imagine 10,000 companies all in this ecosystem and able to operate at scale.
Wow. Wow. And one thing that fascinates me is the fact that you're able to solve most of the challenging problems that entrepreneurs face. One of them is the low entry right into GIAC, where they get exposure to powerhouses in business and entrepreneurship like you, because there's no entry fee. So if your idea is solid enough, you can get in and get the necessary direction and advisory that you need. I'm really loving this. But one thing you mentioned that really intrigued me was the finance arm of the ecosystem. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? I know you are heavily involved in that also. How is that infused in GIAC?
No, that's a very good point because for GIC, for a few years, people would show up to GIC. Hey, they want to give you money, but we're not. We like, where do we put that money? We are not. We're just helping startups, and so it was a little bit challenging. But a few years ago, when we had Max Barlow come to the partnership with GIC, we quickly saw that this was a financing arm of a business. So if you think about it, a lot of this business, what they need is a working capital. So to get working capital, as I mentioned to you, that less than 2% of the world money goes to Africa. That means
Wow.
that you are looking at a continent that barely has cash. Now, if you are in part of the ecosystem, you have the ability that you just needed a pre amount to get money 30 days later, 60 days later, 90 days later, or 180 days later. We're able to help with that business. And so with that partnership, we've partnered with Max Barlow, who are able to give discounted interest rates for people within the portfolio to be able to drive that business. So that's what we've done to basically help, because that's the key. And then when investors want to put money in equity, even they're able to hold it with Max Barlow for a period of time. And when they're ready, they kind of put that investment, and that money is growing for that investor while they are waiting to make an investment in one of these companies.
Wow, wow. Cool. So you mentioned a little bit about your partners, or that GIC has some partners. How did you meet these partners? How come your visions are aligned? How is that story? I'm sure viewers would love to know that story and how you guys met.
So it started off with Eric, and I think it was a cold day in Minnesota in the early 2000s, and we were both playing soccer on opposing teams. And I think I would brag that we beat him that day, but he might say otherwise. But it was that day that we met, and right after the game, we shake hands and we look at each other and we realize that we're both from Ghana, and we're like, oh, and he invited me to his house, and all he did was give me fried yam and, and fish, and that sold it for us. And from then we started doing stuff. And Eric and I went way back. We thought about a lot of things, and what I realized was that we needed to stop talking and move into action. And I remember us watching the World Cup played in South Africa, and we were watching on TV. And I said, why are we not at this game in South Africa when Africa has never hosted a World Cup? Why? I know we kept making excuses, work, and all those things, and we decided no, we are going to stop making excuses and start doing it. So we started the Nike concept. Just do it. And so the next year, Eric and I actually showed up in Brazil to watch the World Cup. And that, as we were building, and I was actually at Brazil, that I started thinking that, hey, I wanted to be challenged more. And I remember because I was managing about a lot of Cisco's revenue, able to cut deals while even on vacation, I realized I needed to be challenged more. And that's where I just said, okay, I'm going to take that chance and move into a company here in the US and help start a company here in the US. And for me, that learning went, and I basically then said, Eric, we are always, let's not talk, let's just do it. So everything we just talk about, let's do it. And that's how we started. So we started with a few portfolio companies. And it was one of those portfolio companies we have that also had Martin as an investor from this thing. So they brought us together to help them basically talk through this mastermind. And the moment we saw each other, we realized that there was something special we could create. So we went off and talked about it. And I'll tell you that when we talked, we realized that we're able to connect. We finished each other's sentences, and we realized that we had something special. Although we had different backgrounds, different styles, we're able to basically connect together because we have a passion of a common goal of transforming the continent of Africa.
Wow, wow. So yeah, I'm picking a few things out, right? One of them is that invite friends into eat yam, fried yam. It could lead to,
Yes.
but on a serious note, I'm getting the vibes of the importance of networking, right? The people we meet. But one important thing is taking action, right? Like you said, you were talking. At what point do you take action? So Could you elaborate on moving from that mindset? Because I know that's what a lot of entrepreneurs and people struggle with, taking action. There's a lot of ideas, and even myself always have ideas, but struggle to move it into fruition because we don't take action. So could you tell us a little bit more about that and what your experiences have
And I
been?
think that has affected a lot of people because for years, there's a lot of, I wish I could do this. I stopped wishing a long time ago. And one thing I told myself is that if you don't do it, you'll not find out. You can do it and fail, it's okay. But if you don't, I wish I started a company. I wish I'd done this. I wish I'd done. The point is that we don't need to be wishing on stuff. Now, you wish you go to the moon and you don't have any chance of going to the moon. Stop wishing. You go to the moon for now. But the point is that if you can do something about it, do it. And so for me, that shift of mindset was just do it, as you see on the Nike sign, is that try it because you have nothing to lose. If it doesn't work out, you just do not understand. You keep trying. We've seen the likes of history of Thomas Edison trying the light bulb so many times, or Tesla with electricity, and all these people who came before us. They kept trying till they figured it out. And so sometimes maybe that's not your destiny. You may not be able to figure it out. It's okay. But at least that trial helps you connect into something. So for me, the reason why I tell people why you have to try something and figure it out is that if you don't try it, you never find out the result. And if Jeff Bezos never tried to start Amazon, he never finds the results. If
Yeah.
Microsoft, Bill Gates doesn't try, he doesn't. So the point is that you have to try to find out the result. And yes, there's a lot of people who fail, but guess what? Some of them are able to learn from that failure to do it better next time. So my encouragement to people is all we have to put stuff into action, have a plan. And I think most of us, the challenge I've seen is that we talk about it, but there's no timeline, there's no expectation or goal. And I tell people that make it measurable. Oh, great. You know what? By the end of 2025, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. Then you worked, then what are you doing to get there? Instead of waiting to say, oh, I did not do this. Okay, I'll do it in 2026. That doesn't work. But hold yourself accountable. And the challenge that is happening is that most of the time I tell people that why does Facebook have a board of directors? There's a lot of smart people working there. Why does Google have a board of directors? The reason is that you have to surround yourself with people who hold you accountable. Sometimes it's mentors. Sometimes someone that you've talked about so that then you can hold yourself accountable. Otherwise, if you're just keeping it in your mind and not even telling anybody, you're not going to do what that. So surrounding yourself with the right mentors. If it's a company, surrounding yourself with the right advisors to basically build it. That's what changes the mindset because it's not just you. You have some accountability to drive.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Now let's talk about this a little bit deeper. I know one of the reasons why people postpone and are afraid to take action is the cost of the failure. And I'm glad you mentioned in the beginning that you've had so many failures, right? And
Yes.
it is that cost of the failure that people are afraid of. So
Yeah.
with your experience now, what would you say that cost is compared to the successes you've chalked? Because I'm sure if people are convinced that, yes, if I go through 100 failures and I get one success, that success overcomes that failure, I think it might help. So could you please share some more light on all the failures you've had? If you were to put a value on it, how does it compare to the successes you've made?
So I would say that yes, the failures were very painful. When you had a business that a salesperson went and the business had grown quite a bit and they went and took all the money, it's tough. The failures of you ship 500 security cameras and you can't install them and it's stuck. That's a lot of money. So those failures cost you. But what I encourage people to realize is this that you have to do calculated failures, right? So those things were sunk costs, couldn't do anything about it. But every one of them helped build me for what I'm doing today. Because
Mm,
without those failures, I don't have success. And the reality is that if I not do those things and I just waited and I came and I'm doing GIAC or Max Ballo, I will tell you that I will not be successful. Those failures are what I'm drawing back to. As I started companies, I realized the concept of corruption. How do I build that in my business so that I don't have somebody taking the business somewhere? I thought about how to do inventory management so that I'm not buying stuff that is not, I don't have the demand for it. And so all these failures are preparing you for something bigger. Because as they say, the definition of luck is when opportunity meet preparation. And so if you don't have this preparation moment, I'm just telling you that when the opportunity comes, you're not going to be ready and you're not going to be lucky.
Mm, mm, mm. Man, this is so packed and powerful. Now let's jump into GIAC a little bit. How does success look like in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years for GIAC?
In the next 10 years, I believe what success will look like in 10 years is that we have raised well over $1 billion, first of all. We have created an ecosystem with over 1 million companies infused in it, 1 million entrepreneurs as part of it. We've created an ecosystem that gives a haven for service providers that are able to thrive their businesses. And we have looked at a continent that 10 years before that was looked at as a joke. And everybody is flocking over there to make investments. And it is the biggest investment shop on the continent. That is what success will look like for us.
Okay. So if you achieve the vision, what Africa do you hope to see?
Say that part again.
If you achieve your vision for GIAC,
Yes.
what kind of Africa do you hope to see?
An
What will be
Africa that is very has developed from an infrastructure place, an Africa that has built up systems that makes businesses thrive and grow, an Africa that has finally solved the credit rating system and allow businesses to thrive, an Africa where now system and processes and anybody who wants to be an entrepreneur has a shot, just like if they went to Silicon Valley. That's the Africa that I would hope to see at that time.
okay? Awesome. So what message do you have for young founders in Ghana, Nigeria, Zambia, wherever in Africa who have a big idea but no support yet or can't figure out how to move those ideas into fruition? Maybe starting with how to even evaluate whether it's a good idea, because we all have ideas, but how do you know and feel so strongly about this? I'm sure GIC wasn't your first idea, but what makes you feel strong about an idea to feel like it will survive?
Yeah, so sometimes there's passion and sometimes there's business. And
Okay.
I think the reality is that you have to differentiate those things. There are some nice things that you talk about, but you will not probably be successful in. The reality is this: most businesses, 38% of businesses fail because of money, 62% of business fail because of multiple reasons. Market fit, too early, they burn out, the pivot gone bad. There's so many reasons why startups fail. It's more than the money piece because only 38% is called money. What I tell people is that you have to first of all evaluate that idea and ask yourself, what is that market? Is there a market for it? Is this something you're trying to create a solution to go and look for a problem? Or is this problem big enough that when you put it out there, is it easily that the moment you come up with some big company can just copy the same thing and do it? Then you probably don't want to go there because you will be copied. So I tell people that you got to do some of those discovery. And here at GIC, some of these people, we give the opportunity to just chat with you. Let's talk aloud about these things. We may not go this thing, but let's even we get the opportunity to just chat with you about these opportunities. And let's talk aloud. Let somebody be very open with you on these concepts before you jump into it. But just going in with a passion of let me build it because people will come, you're probably setting yourself up for failure. And so I tell people that assessing the idea is one thing. The second thing is you got to get the right team up front. I can tell you that every business I've built, and when I was talking about those early business, it was just me. It's a one-man show, and they kept failing. I quickly learned that it takes a village. And so if you notice, at GIAC, I have partners.
Yeah.
At Max Barlow, I have co-founders. I have co-founders in both of these things. Because what I realized was that you can't do it by yourself. If I was just the only one running GIAC, I'll tell you, you will not be successful, no matter how much ideas I have. It takes getting the right team members to build it. Now, I know it's sometimes the trust effect. I don't trust this person, so it makes it hard. We got to find those people that you can trust and partner with who share that common goal because that's what changes. The other thing I've also learned quickly was that you have to figure out how you get more people involved. How do you find advisors? How do you not keep 100% of a business? How do you give up a lot, but still be able to get more out of it because you're bringing more people into it? So we've always done this that, yeah, we could use our money, but if you so, we get other people involved in it. So creating that domino effect is very, very critical for success. And that's what I think works.
I'm really glad you touched on that and the need for collaboration because let me just share a quick story. Over the weekend, I was chatting with a young gentleman who is here in the US and he's trying to save and invest money so he can go back with an idea to have like a really high-tech school to train kids on AI, have this AI visual headsets and all that. Really brilliant idea, but I see his problem is he wants to be the one implementing it and he also wants to wait on the idea until he has the money to do it. And I'm like, you can pick one of them and solve the other by raising capital through equity and all that. So I'm really glad you talked about finding the right people, finding the right help. Trying to do it alone might always be difficult. Now let's look at the GIAC portfolio companies. Obviously, that's one of the strongest and unique parts of GIAC. If I am a business or a startup or an entrepreneur and I'm considering joining GIAC, what should I expect from the initial stages of engagement all the way through to now I'm a GIAC portfolio company? What support do I get from GIAC and how does that transform my business?
Yes. No, very good question. So I think typically, if you hear about GIAC, what I tell you first thing we do is that we have a video that we've curated that tells you about GIAC. It gives you what we look for. So if you basically are interested, you watch that video and it's still of interest, then we ask you to basically then put that contact us, and then what we do is we will schedule that first meeting to basically screen and see if it's a fit. So there's an initial screening of if it's a fit or not. Once a fit, we would basically put a meeting down, and you have the opportunity, and you're coming in there to give a few things. You're about to talk about a few things for us, right? You're coming in and telling us that, hey, what problem are you trying to solve? What impact are you trying to do? How's the idea unique? So we ask for what traction have you done today, right? And then what's your team? What team are you this and what do you specifically is your ask? Those 6 questions have to be answered. And so once you're able to come in and answer those questions, it helps us then determine that, okay, are you a fit or not a fit? And even if you're not a fit, we might just give you some advice to see some things that you can do to basically go out there and still be able to do. But if you become a fit, then we move on to then onboarding you as part of the GIAC ecosystem. And there's a process. There's a whole onboarding of basically doing some processes around your vision, strategy, how do you execute it, metrics. There's a whole methodology around it. Once you watch that video, a second video that or the onboarding video, you'll be able to have that opportunity to now create that. Then we're able to fine tune it with you, and then we lock and load because we care about clear, measurable goals. We're going to drive revenue for this. We're going to get this number of users. Very, very specific. So now we're going to grow the business. It doesn't mean anything. So we do that. After that, it's more of doing this checkpoint. You're giving reports monthly. You're basically able to track it. And we create this pressure cooker environment because pressure creates diamond. If you don't want that, then you just want to just go at your speed. Oftentimes, it doesn't work out. So that is the basic become, and then we just continue. And then obviously, if there's sometimes the discussions lead to supply chain experts, then we connect one. Maybe it needs to cash, we connect a partner. So we have different reasons, obviously, as businesses continue. And that's what we're able to offer. So that continues in perpetuity of your business. And our goal is to make sure you are successful so that we are successful.
Awesome. Yeah, I know you are creating some great impact with some businesses. I know Escape is doing really well. VIP Social and a few of the other portfolio companies. How do you support these companies and what is the end goal? Is there like ever a graduation or this is a perpetual relationship? How does that work?
So it is a perpetual relationship that continues because businesses, until your business close shop, the business sees different things, right? Dealt with a pandemic in 2020. They dealt with new tariffs in 2025. So businesses always go through some of these things. So what we do as a business is to more continue with them to try to basically get them through all these phases as a business. And so we look at this more perpetual. Obviously, if for some reason it's some issue between the two and it's mutually to separate, that could happen. But we look at the goal of how do we partner to keep growing this business in perpetuity.
Awesome. So let's go into some rapid fire as we try to maybe end. So, what is one word to describe GIAC?
Transformation.
Transformation. Okay. Now, let's also talk about a little bit of mentorship. Knowing what you've achieved in the business space and entrepreneur space. Um, and I know you do speaking engagements, and I've heard you speak at Ashinaga and things like that. Could you tell us mentors you've had and the lessons you've learned from them, and then how you also mentor people who are upcoming in the entrepreneurship space? What is your approach, and how do you do that?
Yes, I think mentors have been very is critical. I found my mentors very, very early in life, and I think it shaped me very well. I think mentor is somebody who has achieved something, and maybe you're looking up to it and basically picking up on that. And I think for me, that helped me a lot. And I also believe in maybe you've achieved something, somebody can this thing. Basically, it's called also reaching back to help the community. So it's a two-way street. It's not you're just receiving, but you're also giving because there's somebody that's on the totem pole you are higher than. And so you can help those other people. So I look at it more of a two-way street where you look for mentors and mentees. And you're able to basically drive those two because you get more of a satisfaction that way. And so what I tell people is that please, please, please find the right mentors. You're looking for a business growth, find the right mentors who have done this business before so that you're not starting to recreate anything. Then also mentor people. Maybe it's a team members, or maybe it's some kid in high school that's thinking about doing what you're doing. Those are things. So I would say that you need both to basically be successful.
Okay. Real quick, could you tell us a few things to help you identify a good mentor? Personally, I'm also big on mentorship, and sometimes you get in contact, you identify someone from afar as someone who potentially could be a good mentor. Then you get closer and you realize, oh, this is not really the kind of person or mentorship I was looking for, right? So, what are some of the things to look for in a mentor, and how do you navigate that space?
I think the approach of what you do to look is that yes, you can only see outside in until you really start talking. So I tell people that cast a wide net. I always believe that there's always a conversion rate. So when you do get a few, then only a percentage of it will work. But if you only have one, and that one is no good, then it makes it hard. So my recommendation is that as you're finding people, you're growing your mentor base and refining and say, oh, these are the good ones, or these are the ones I just talk to every now and then, or these ones never do anything. So you start putting them in those buckets. So I would say continue to look. You never stop looking for mentors. Continue to look for mentors and refine them and just position the right ones in the right buckets, and then fizzle these other ones in those other two buckets.
Okay. Hey, let's jump back a little bit. There was one thing we mentioned about your aim as GIAC to raise $1 billion from 100,000 diasporas. What is going to be the approach to reach these 100,000 diasporans?
So I think for us, I think one of the things that has limited businesses for a long time is legitimacy. So businesses go there and say, oh, because once upon a time, some guy came from Ghana or Nigeria or Cameroon or Senegal or South Africa and started some business, collected money, then run away with the money. So that is at the back of people's minds. So typically when we come, they're looking at, is this another one of those things that are here to basically get our money? So it
Yeah.
comes up that way. So unfortunately, we have to prove and basically grow, then people come into the community. So we believe that we are going to continue to drive this growth, helping businesses, and basically creating this community that then drives that legitimacy. And we would basically, whether we use old school groups, country organizations, networking, we're going to basically look at reaching out to all those people to basically bring and create that movement. So we think that that is just a process to get there. So we think that by driving legitimacy is one thing, but then expanding the network so those people get it, then there's a network effect of getting 100,000 people from the diaspora. They have more people from Nigeria and Houston than 100,000, just to put in perspective. So it's not a big number. It's not the biggest number. So we believe that that can be very reached very well. Because I just mentioned one city with one country, Nigeria,
Yeah.
Nigerians in Houston.
Wow. So as we wrap up, if everyone watching this video or watching this takes one action after this conversation, what should it be?
I would say just do it. Just assess. assess things you want to do, understand the pros and cons, and take an action, and not delay it for years. If you're not going to do it, or do it. Make a decision for yourself. And I also encourage everybody that please live your dreams. Best if you step back, and maybe somebody, it's not about entrepreneur. Somebody, it's just about working in the company. Just do the best job within the company. You want to go to entrepreneur, do the best job. You want to do something else, figure out what you want to do and just do it. And I just encourage everyone that do it. And for the entrepreneurs, I'll say that this GIAC is creating a movement. We're looking for passionate entrepreneurs who are ready to change the continent. And so I encourage you that if you are very, very interested, please reach out to us, because we know that with the right partners, we're going to change the continent together.
Awesome. So I know you're big on books. I've sat in meetings with you where you recommended a book or two. Could you tell us about the most impactful book on your journey as an entrepreneur? It can be that, or it can be for personal development, growth, whatever. But what is that biggest, most impactful book for you?
I think this is I call it my my book out here. Play
Your
big.
Bible.
My Bible, the Gospel according to GIAC. Play bigger. So what this book does is that it creates a category. The reality is that if you go into a place and you're not number one or number two in that category, and you join number 3 to 1 million, you're chasing 80% of the 20% of the revenue, while these two people are chasing 80%. So if you are not a Lyft or Uber, and you are Joe Michael car ride service, you're not making that much money. So the point is that to make businesses successful, you have to create a category for yourself. You can't be just another company that's doing the same thing. You can't be I'm selling water, so I'm selling water next to you. You will never, when I come, people can choose. So creating a category, this book goes back and talk about how Uber comes into a crowded taxi space and creates an app that today changes the whole landscape and creates a category for themselves. It talks about Airbnb comes and there's a ton of hotels and create this whole thing that drives it. And you may say, oh, those companies are big, but in your little way, how is your company driving uniqueness to create a category for yourself to drive that business? And that's what I'm saying. So when you look at GIZ, we're creating a category. We're not an incubator, we're not a VC, we're not a private equity, we are not just a mentorship or consultant, but you're able to take the best of it and create a new category for yourself. And then that changes the game for you.
Wow. I know you might have something after this, and we're almost out of time. But real quick, for a lot of entrepreneurs, and I hope this question resonates with them because it resonates with me. How do you manage the personal life with being an entrepreneur? Being an entrepreneur is very demanding, especially if you're starting something new. It demands go, 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 hoping it will work. And then, but you also have responsibilities as a dad, a partner, whatever, right? How do you navigate that space? Is it that there's no hope? Or like how do you navigate that space so that you can save your relationships and also be able to
No, I think it's very important. It's very important. A lot of entrepreneurs, that's been a big challenge, whether it's through divorces with kids not liking them because they were not there. So I think that's a fine balance. I tell people that one thing I do that has worked well is going on vacations, setting up vacation, being very purposeful that these times, maybe it's 2 times you are going on this vacation. Then it's basically that, okay, if you are even working, basically there's these times that you're not, you just put everything out and just spend time. So I tell people that you have to find that fine balance, because yes, the reality is that if you stay 24 hours working, you still not finish what you're doing. That's the reality. So the reality is that you're not going to finish even if you did 24 hours. So now cut it down to X number of hours and spend the time, because to me, there's nothing like family, whether it's parents, it's kids, it's spouses, whatever. My encouragement to you is that find that balance that works for you. Everybody's different, but you can't just ignore everybody around you and hope that you're successful later.
Yeah. I asked that question because I know you have a great relationship with your daughter. You send her to school and all that, and that's to appreciate that you can be an entrepreneur and still have great relationships. Is there something you would have loved to talk about that we didn't?
No, I think you had all the questions, and so great work. So the only thing I'll just say was thanks for making inviting me to this to talk about this. I really, really appreciate it. We are trying to change the continent, and it's going to take a village. You take everyone to make this happen. So this is not about just the co-founders, about everybody that we can connect with. If you're watching this, you're interested, please reach out. There are different ways, whether it's coming through investment, coming as an entrepreneur, coming as a service provider, coming as a thought leader. Everybody can play a role here. So I encourage everybody to see how we join this movement and transform this continent together.
Wow, that's the interview, Akwasi. Really appreciate your time. Hey, so if you're listening or watching this, join GIAC. I think the vision is great. It's gonna change Africa, and there's a lot in store. So come be part of it instead of reading or learning or seeing it. So thank you so much, Akwasi, once again, and I'll let you go.
Thank you very much. We'll be talking later.
Okay, bye.